The Child Psych podcast brings to you the top parenting and mental health experts in the world, designed to educate and inspire you with current research and concrete strategies that foster resiliency and healing in children and teens. Most importantly, we're here because we need to raise a generation of children who don't need to recover from their childhoods. If you are loving our show, we would be so appreciative if you leave us a review or rating at icphelps.com or on your favorite podcast platform.
Welcome, everyone. I am Tammy.
And I'm Tanya.
And this is the Child Psych podcast.
We are psychologists, the co-founders of the Institute of Child Psychology, and most importantly, mums.
Today, we are here with Patty Wipfler and Toscha Schore. They are authors of one of our favorite parenting books called Listen. And it's one of probably my, depending if you have littles or not at home, like really tiny ones, it's in my top 10 books, especially for discipline when you've got little ones. And we use your tools religiously. So we're going to talk about those tools. Patty is the mother of 2 sons and the founder of the nonprofit organization Hand in Hand Parenting. The focus of her life's work has been on teaching and supporting parents. In 1989, Patty founded the nonprofit Hand in Hand. As director, she wrote The Approach for Parenting. As the director, she wrote the Listening to Children series and over 60 articles on the principles and benefits of this approach to parenting. She has also spoken to parents around the world. Patty has 2 grown sons that live in Palo Alto, California. Toscha Schore brings her burst of energy and optimism to parenting. She's an expert at simple solutions to what feel like overwhelmingly complicated problems. A sought-after coach, author, educator, and speaker, Schore is committed to creating lasting change in families and in the world by supporting parents to care for themselves. Schore uses the 5 hand-in-hand parenting tools to support parents of young boys through coaching and live virtual courses via her website, parentingboyspeacefully.com. Welcome.
Welcome. Well, Patty and Toscha, we've already mentioned that what we love about your work is your 5 tools. So I think that we should start there. Could you tell our listeners about your tools?
Sure. I'll start. Basically, children and grown-ups, people of all ages, function best when they feel safe and connected to others. Feeling connected helps you live longer. Feeling connected makes you smarter. Feeling connected grounds you during stressful times. We human beings were, evolved because we could connect, and connection has turned out to be absolutely vital to our mental and physical health. And particularly in childhood, when children are vulnerable, feeling connected is really vital. Children do not thrive if they don't have someone who sees them, feels them, cares about them, is delighted to be with them. And what these tools do is they're grounded in the act of listening to someone else, because listening is a very powerful connector of human beings across all the age groups. So the listening is it's the core of the work that we do, both with parents and with children. It's not that easy. Listening is not cultivated in almost any of the cultures that you see in the modern world. And so our tools are one tool for parents to use to build listening relationships so that they have someone listening to them about all the ins and outs and ups and downs of parenting on as frequent a basis as they can arrange it. And so we call that listening partnerships, where 2 people exchange listening. You don't have to be a professional to do it very, very well. But you do have to follow certain guidelines, which take you out of conversation and into paying attention and trusting the other person's. So that's listening partnerships for grown-ups, and that's how we teach people to use listening at that end of the age scale. And for children, we have 4 tools, parent-to-child tools that help children get their daily dose of connection. So the first one is special time. It's really the tool to use first. It's the tool to use when your child is off track, their behavior's going nuts. It's the tool to use when there's extra stress in the family. all you do to do special time is you sort of try to get your own burdens off your shoulders for 10 minutes, and you tell your child, hey, I've got 10 minutes. I'll do whatever you want to do. What do you want to do? And you bring some life and some interest, and you bring an open mind to it. You're not like, and we can either read this book or this book, but we're going to read a book because it's special time. You do not direct what happens at special time. You direct when it happens and how long it's for. And special time has a beginning and an end. We're going to start now and we're going to end when the little beeper goes off. And so that children can kind of calibrate to what it feels like to have connection coming in. And after about 6 months of using special time as a regular practice, children can notice that they're going off track. They're wanting to.
We used your tool because Tanya and I have we had kids around the same time. I have a blended family though, and so we have 3 kids that are 6 and under. I've read your book before I had kids, and in our home we use your tool for special time. And my husband and I say, so and so, like whichever child it is, bucket's empty. And then we know that's cue for special time. Like that in our home is the cue. And we really used your book to help cultivate like the steps for that. Just instead of it being like a movie or something, like we're play therapists. So we know child-led play is so important, but this just structure around it of being guidelines for us, even as parents, because it's therapeutic, but it's not therapy. It's not a play therapy session, but it's just really, and it's so doable, this skill of the special time. And we're not asking parents to do it. You're not asking them to do it for 2 hours. It's 10, 15 minutes.
What I love about that is it's just a skill that's transferable across the ages. So, when they're little, it's special time. But what we're hoping is that when they move into adulthood in different ways, they can ask that from their partner. So instead of getting into conflict, they now have those skills that you've put in place.
Once I went to visit my younger son when we had just gone to university. And it was my first trip down there. And I met his roommates and I took them out to lunch and I took him out to dinner and we walked around and I don't know, he showed me around. And finally on Sunday afternoon, we were walking down a hill and he looks at me and he goes, Mom, when are we going to do special time?
I love that.
Oh, that's
because he just wanted that, that real direct attention, not kind of, oh, we're having a nice time looking around the world together. It's like, yeah. So
that's beautiful.
It's
yeah.
So that's the first tool. Second tool is what we call play listening, which is really grown-ups noticing what allows a child to laugh and then promoting that laughter without any tickling or forcing anything. But you just kind of, once when I ran an infant toddler center, and once while I was in with the toddlers, I walked across the room and I tripped on a little fold in the carpet. And one of the children saw me trip and laughed. And I thought, well, that's interesting. All these kids are working on the skill of walking and they're falling down a lot. So I said, oh my gosh. So play listening is in a situation like that going, oh, I've got to walk across this room again. I know I can do it, and then trying to walk across the room and pretend tripping again. And then 2 kids laughed. And I go, why can't I walk across this room? I'm going to try this again. I know I can do it. I'm a good walker. And tripping again. And pretty soon, all 8 toddlers were laughing and running across the room and falling down intentionally. And it was this riot of laughter and running and falling, and it was all good. And just all of this tension from the effort to walk was just rolling off in laughter. So that's play listening. It's like just capitalizing without tickling on what lets children laugh and helping that go. Because laughter is also a very powerful safety builder and connector of people. And then setting limits, which is absolutely vital in parenting. Children really need limits because they go off track and they don't want to be off track. They don't want to be calling somebody else names or, throwing their food on the floor or jumping up and down and refusing to go to bed. It's not fun for them to feel yucky inside and then do those things. And setting limits gives a child the chance to offload the bad feelings that are driving the off-track behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And we follow that tool, but basically you just try not to bring your own heated emotions into setting limits. It's like, nope, can't let you do that, sweetie. It really is time for bed. And the fourth parent-child tool is what we call stay listening, which is bringing your attention and your warmth to your child when they are having really big negative emotions. So they're crying because they don't want to go to bed, and you bring your eye contact and maybe some gentle touch, and I know it's hard, but it's time to go to bed. And you leave time for what is a healing process. It's like as the negative emotions come out in tears or tantrums or sweating and struggling, your warmth and caring goes in. It basically, the negative emotions coming out makes room in their system for the good stuff. The more they can cry, the closer they're going to feel to you afterwards. And it doesn't look like anything's happening there. It looks like it's a very quiet power that you have supporting your child through bad feelings. But boy, that quiet power can change a child's whole life. So that's stay listening. Those are the tools, and they're
beautiful.
And they're meant to work together. It's like if you just do stay listening, it's not gonna help you raise a healthy child. If you just do play listening and it's all laughter and no limits, things are gonna go awry. It's like all of these five, and if you try to do these tools without getting some emotional support yourself, you're gonna be kind of wooden at it. And parents, especially right now, need a lot of emotional support. It's such a hard job in our society that wants to pull their attention away from connection and onto devices over and over and over again.
It's beautiful.
I want to add something. So we've got this kind of a recap. We have the partnership, like listening partnerships and truly listening to what they have to say in their parenting struggle is one of the highlights you talk about with the partnership, that listening partnership. Then we have special time, play listening, limits. So my favorite tool other than special time is the play listening. And I just want to give you, I learned these from you guys. So just like to be clear in my home, is that when I want cooperation, particularly from my son, who is very boisterous and very active, is using laughter instead of like limits or, discipline, is using that connection, that oxytocin, that piece to get him from point A to point B. So like if I want him to brush his teeth and get to the bathroom, we have a race. And there's this really important part where, sometimes I beat him. I usually let him win, but like it always feels like it's neck and neck. And if I want him to do something, so that laughter, we do that to get to the car, like racing to him. And I also think from your book too, this one play listening tool that I love is when I couldn't get him dressed in the morning, I would fumble around and I would try to get dressed with his clothes, except I would put his shirt on my foot and I'd put the sock on top of my head and I would pretend like I didn't know how to get dressed. And he would laugh and he'd want to show me how to get dressed. It's just being very silly about it and being the one who didn't know how to do it. And then he took control and after he's laughed, like there's that cooperation that would come from the laughter and the silliness. And I just feel for little ones, these tools you guys give in your book, it melts away at the opposition, especially with little ones under 5 that we so desperately need than just coming down on them. And I'm
Rigid.
The boss and you have to do it this way.
Yeah.
There's a time and place for limits. But what I love about your book is it talks about how to connect and then redirect them in using laughter and using silliness instead of just being like discipline strategies. Actually is a discipline strategy, but it's way more fun.
Yep.
Can I say a little something about that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So play listening, I think, is probably one of the most challenging tools for parents to learn. Kind of stuck or confused is that we don't realize that the power in play listening really is about the laughter and the healing of fears that comes as a result of the release of the laughter. And so we can sometimes use it as like a way to coerce our child into doing something, or like, we can use it as like a means to an end in a very sort of linear kind of a way, forgetting that it's the laughter that we're going for. So we want to just be really clear that we, this example that you gave about the getting your child dressed is so great, because what you're doing is you're saying, hey, I'm noticing that when I put my sock on my head, it engenders laughter from my child, right? And when he laughs, he feels a little bit lighter. There's a little bit less rigidity. He's a little bit more flowy and moving towards cooperation. And then I put, the pants on my shoulder and he laughs a little bit more and he moves a little bit more towards cooperation. But it's not like we're like forcing him to cooperate. We're noticing what's getting in the way of him being able to cooperate and offering an opportunity for the healing to happen so that he can cooperate. Does that make sense? Do you see what I mean?
It's a beautiful reframe, because unfortunately I think I probably use it more as being like, I need to get this done in the morning, and it works. So I've been using this for years and it works pretty much without fail every time. So I've been like, I love this strategy, but of course then I think it overflows into other activities throughout the day. We've kind of set him up for feeling connected, which allows him to navigate the world in that grounded place. So it's not just about that moment, it's that carryover.
It's a connection.
Many families have struggled in 2022. At the Institute, we want to walk alongside you into 2023 to ensure it's a year full of connection, love, and growth. For the month of December only, we will be offering 50% off of all of our pre-recorded courses. These courses cover an array of topics pertaining to children's mental health and wellness, and are packed with the latest research, tools, and strategies. Go to icphelps.com for more information.
Yeah.
And what I like to think about is our behavior is changing over time, right? So if we're, if you're saying, oh gosh, maybe I'm using this as kind of like a means to an end, a way to get things done, a way to get him to do things, like what you'll notice is that the behavior isn't getting better, right? Like I'm using this every time we have to go to the car, I'm doing the same thing. And if you're noticing that, then I think the shift to make is to focus on the connection, right? Because one of the things that sometimes gets missed is that when it is the connection that allows the shift in behavior, it is the feeling seen that allows the child to say, oh yeah, let me just grab my shoes or whatever, I'll put them on in the car, right? And do different next time, I guess is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So there's the in the moment, and then there's the bigger picture of how are things going.
Beautiful.
And there's there's also, it's like once a child is laughing, even if you have, engineered a race to the bathroom to get ready for school, it's like we sometimes are focused so much on our children that we forget to enjoy that moment. And the delight of a parent, it's like there is nothing better to a child than to see their parent lighting up with laughter and really enjoying the moment, enjoying the contest, enjoying the creativity of finding a way to get there second by just a hair, and the child is feeling victorious. It's like, so it's for us too. It's really, the play listening it's creative, it's fun, and there's nothing better than having your child delighted with you and getting to delight in them as they do this. So it's really, it's not just I'm the parent and I'm doing a good job. It's like, I'm loving this relationship, and that's savoring the moment with them.
Yeah, it's the delight. I do have a question, Patty and Toscha. One of the things that parents often struggle with is putting in limits. How do you recommend parents put in limits?
Like setting limits with their kids?
Setting limits.
In the book, and and in everything that I think we both teach, we talk about a 3-step practice of listen, limit, and listen. And even before we go into that a little bit, what I want to say is that there's no one right limit to set. Like, most limits are gray. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there are the black and white limits, like hurting somebody, for example. Mm-hmm. But most of the limits, does your child need to get off their screen? What time is bed? Do they sleep with you, or do they sleep in their own room? I mean, like, all these things that we're struggling, you know, what they eat, how they eat, when they eat, all these things, these are personal decisions. And I really want parents to be clear that, I mean, I've worked with tons of parents. Patty has worked with even more parents, and mostly all our kids turn out fine. You know, if they sleep with us, if they don't sleep with us, if they eat their vegetables, if they don't eat their vegetables. But so when we talk about setting limits, it's really important for me that parents realize that they get to decide what's aligned with their values, what makes sense for them and their situation and their family. Mm. And then when we go into the listen, limit, listen, it's really important for parents to take that first listen, which is really about like listening to whether or not a limit needs to be set, whether or not I, as a parent, have the wherewithal to deal with the fallout of the limit, right? In other words, like, I get to set the limit. I can decide to set the limit, but I can't control how my child feels about it, mm-hmm. right? So, like, let's say, you know, where the decision is like, can they have cake or can they not have cake? Mm-hmm. First of all, it might be different depending on the situation, right? If it's a school night and it's 8:00 at night and you know sugar wires your child and whatever, then maybe you would make a decision to say no. Maybe if you're in the park on a Sunday afternoon at somebody's birthday party, maybe you would make a decision to say yes. I don't know, but in either case, like, you don't have control over how your child feels. So in that first listen, which is happening, it's kind of like a scan the scene, right? Before you bring the limit, you want to think about, do I have the wherewithal to keep calm and loving and connected in the face of whatever feelings might come up for my child? Because in my opinion, I'd rather have you even have the kid eat the cake at 8:00 at night and be wired than you hold a limit and end up, you know, yelling at that child and shaming that child and berating that child and punishing that child and feeling horrible about it when you know, crying yourself to sleep at night. I'd rather they just ate the cake and went to bed, you know, or didn't sleep for a night and we didn't pile in more hurt. So we want to really take time. And this is the step that parents skip. We don't take the time to scan the scene. Mm. So we need to think about that. Do I want to set a limit? Am I in emotional shape to be able to, again, handle the upset that might come as a result of that limit? And then, okay. And so then when we get to limit setting, we talk about bringing a limit. And this is important because a lot of parents think a limit is saying something like, go get your pajamas on. And it's like, the child's not getting their pajamas on. And so you say again, go get your pajamas on. Please go get your pajamas on. Like, go get your pajamas on already. I've told you 50 times, get your pajamas on, right? I like to say to parents, that's not a limit. That's kind of a pipe dream. You're throwing something out and it's not happening. If you were to say it once or twice and they were able to follow through, then yes. But if they're not able to follow through, then you need to acknowledge that more needs to be done if, in fact, this limit is an important one to you. And so bringing a limit is actually moving in with our bodies, right? So let's say the child is playing with their Legos and you're in the other room and you're saying, time to go, stop playing and go put your pajamas on, but it's not happening. So bringing a limit would look like you go into the room, you get down to their level, right? Because as mammals, we feel threatened when something or someone is hovering over us like this, and most of us are larger, or at least used to be, larger than our children, right? And so we want to get down to their level. We want to use a kind, loving voice. A limit isn't a punishment. This is one of the one of the like biggest lies out there about limits. And I love, my favorite things what Patty always said, what Patty taught me. Like she used to say, Patty, give limits, like set limits like you're giving a gift. And it's true. It is a big gift. It's not a punishment. So you would go in there, you get down low, and you might put your hand on the Legos they're playing with and say, hey, hey, sweet girl, time to get your PJs on now. And at that point, you're interrupting the play because you've already sort of tried from the other room to say, hey, go get your pajamas, go get your pajamas. This isn't a surprise. But right now you're coming in and you're kind of making stop happen. You're putting your hand on the Lego and you're saying, hey, sweet girl, time to get your PJs on. And then we move in to the third step, was listen. Then we brought a limit, right? We listened, we decided a limit was in order. In this case, it's time to move towards bed, time to stop playing. We brought a limit, we came in, we used a loving tone, we got down low, we made stop happen in the situation. And then the third step of listening is stay listening. It's the stay listening tool, where we don't pretend to have control over what our child feels about the limit. Instead, we devote ourselves to being present with whatever feelings come up for them, understanding that that's a healing practice, that if we are able to stay loving and kind and listen deeply as they get angry, I hate you, you never let me finish my Legos, all the things, like maybe they try to throw them or whatever, I'm not going to bed, everybody else gets to stay up later, whatever, all the things. But our staying in there, stay listening and staying loving and connected, just listening to the upset is the healing process. And like we talked about with play listening earlier, what we're going for is change over time. So oftentimes we get stuck in this like, well, this isn't working, right? Parents will say, well, it's not working. She's just getting mad. No, it's working. It's working. You're being clear about, what your limit is, what this rule is, what this limit is that you've decided, you've been thoughtful about making a decision about it being important to you and your family. You've implemented that, you've brought that limit, and you've created space for your child to have feelings about that limit. And what you're going to see over time, if you're able to listen lovingly, is that you're going to see that the transition out of play and into sleep or whatever, or transitions in general, will start to go more smoothly.
I just have a really good anecdote about this exact thing, and that I want to tell. And that is, I taught these tools to my brother and my sister-in-law, and they, it's like put your pajamas on, and she's ignoring them. And they brought the limit, just like Toscha said, and she went running through the house crying into her bedroom where the pajamas actually had been laid out for her, and cried and cried and cried. And her mom came and listened to her, and she sweated and struggled and fumed and just very big emotions. And after a little while, after 15 minutes or so, my sister-in-law kind of picked her up and pulled her into her lap, and she fought and struggled and cried, and no, it's still time to put your pajamas on. And then she said, you're forcing me just like that boy forced me today. And her mom went, oh, what happened today? And she cried and cried and cried some more, and then told the story of a boy in her preschool, who she was 4 years old at the time, who wanted to kiss her, and she did not want to kiss him, and he chased her around. And she, got behind the gate, and then he pressed the gate up into her so she couldn't move, and kissed her forcefully. And no wonder she couldn't think before she went to sleep. All of that was, kind of percolating in her mind. And who can go to sleep when you've been kind of accosted like that, even if you're 4 years old? And so she cried, and her mom listened, and she cried and cried and cried and told the story, and then could finally settle and had clear eyes and could go to sleep. And in the morning, the mom said, are you ready to go back to school? I think we need to let your teacher know what happened yesterday. And she said, do you want me to tell her, or do you want to tell her? And she just woke up bright, shiny. Oh, Mom, I'll tell her. You hold me and I'll tell her, And she felt like fully in charge. They went in, they told the teacher. The teacher apologized for that having happened. And she went off to play without a worry about that boy, about that happening again. It's like she really had recovered entirely. And yeah, it took a half an hour, but way better than saving it for 20 years and then having that sit there when you're trying to have a safe and loving relationship with your boyfriend.
I think this is such a good point, is parents, we personalize, right? We personalize behavior, we personalize the emotions, and we forget that kids have had all these experiences that week that we weren't around for.
Yeah.
And all of these things have happened. And kids, just because of how they process information, don't always have the words. And they may not tell you it happened, but it's accumulating. And once they're with you, that's like when they come home from school and they have that big eruption, is they finally have some place safe to put it. And we forget what an honor that is. It's exhausting, but it's an honor to hold that space for them because they've just had all. And so often it's not about us. There's been all these other things that have happened. And it was when you set the limit that allowed that the stay listening as you say no to something. And then all of the emotions that accumulated throughout that day or that week or that month come to the surface. And it's not that you're a bad parent. Your child just needed that limit. It's the floodgate opened, and our job then is to just hold space.
Patty and Toscha, thank you so much for your time today. For anybody who wants to find out more, there's so much more on both of the websites that we have. So it's handinhandparenting.org, or you can head over to parentingboyspeacefully.com. Please get a hold of Patty and Toscha's book. It's fabulous. It's called Listen, and it can be found on Amazon.
Yeah. Thank you both so much for your time today.
Thank you, Patty and Toscha.
I feel honored to be here. Thank you.
If you enjoyed listening to the Child Psych podcast, we would be delighted if you left us a review or rating on icphelps.com or on your favorite podcast platform. We have so much more to share with you at ICP, and whether you're looking for parenting support or you're a professional looking for strategies to help children who are struggling with their mental health, we have the answers you're looking for. At ICP, we offer a unique membership program that gives you access to over 60 accredited online courses and past conference workshops offered by the top experts on the planet, and also provides a community platform where you can connect with like-minded professionals and parents, sharing ideas, resources, as well as advice from the ICP team of professionals. You can access our courses and workshops through your desktop or through our app, offered exclusively to our members. Please go to icphelps.com to start your journey with us today.